We are going to search the land at Prairie Green. We are going to work with the families along the way and Indigenous leadership, in this case, namely the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs.
Tonight, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs are questioning comments made by the Manitoba Premier over searching the Prairie Green landfill.
This particular situation just goes to show how much work there is left to do.
A controversial silica mining project is going forward in Manitoba. What do the land defenders have to say?
I know a lot of people, they think reconciliation is this. That's not reconciliation.
And elders in Edmonton gathered to discuss what needs to be done to bring about true reconciliation. Good evening, I'm Savannah Kelly. Welcome to APTN National News. The family of Selena Taylor have been waiting for 3.5 years to see justice. In January, Jordan Morin pleaded guilty to aggravated assault endangering life. Today, he received his sentence. APTN's Annette Francis joins us now from Peterborough.
I'm outside the Court of Justice in Peterborough, where Jordan Morin received a sentence of 4 years in prison with time served. He'll do 550 days. Morin was convicted of the 2020 beating of Taylor. She quickly fell into a coma and died in February 2021 when taken off life support. The Crown and defense were both seeking 4 years. Taylor's family was still disappointed with the outcome. They held out hope Justice Jennifer Broderick would impose a stiffer sentence. The maximum sentence for an aggravated assault endangering life offense is 14 years, but Broderick stuck with the plea bargain. Savannah Taylor is Selena's sister. She's shocked with the sentence.
In 550 days, Jordan Morin gets to get out and go live life as Jordan Morin. Even though the suffering of 4 walls cut his time in half, he doesn't know the feeling of living inside a coffin. And in 550 days, women are going to see him out and about.
Krista Bigcanoe has been representing the family. She'd hoped victim impact statements from family and chiefs presented in court earlier this month would have made a difference.
In this case, we had Curve Lake First Nation come and make an impact statement, and 7 of the Anishinaabe chiefs wrote a joint statement that was shared by Chief Kelly LaRocca that explained exactly how we feel as people. And I mean, it feels like we're singing the same song years and years later. And I think there's been a little progress. The judge could have granted or sentenced more of a reduction, and she didn't. So there's a little progress here, but it'll never be enough for the family that's lost someone that was as beautiful and kind-spirited as Selena.
Annette Francis, APTN National News, Peterborough.
In Winnipeg, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs says it's questioning a comment made by Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew about a proposed landfill search for 2 Indigenous women. At a press conference on Thursday, Kinew said he's confident the search will happen this year.
We are going to search the land at Prairie Green. We are going to work with the families along the way and Indigenous leadership, in this case, namely the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. We're also going to be there to support the families through what I expect will be a difficult next few months. And this work will continue. I think that we have a responsibility to ensure that our communication happens first and foremost with families and with Indigenous leadership prior to the public.
Following the conference, the AMC claims neither the provincial or federal governments have responded to an operational report that was submitted by AMC in January. The report highlights the search process and states the search can begin in October if funding from both levels of government was in place by February 1st. That has yet to happen. The bodies of Mercedes Myron, Morgan Harris, and an unidentified woman known as Buffalo Woman are believed to be in the Prairie Green landfill north of Winnipeg. We want to hear what you think about the ongoing push for a landfill search or any other story you see here tonight. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. The Red River, which flows through the city of Winnipeg northward to Lake Winnipeg. It has untreated sewage leaking into the waters. And Treaty 1 chiefs say they're concerned about the environmental impacts. In Winnipeg, over 160 million litres of untreated sewage has flowed into the Red River, which can contaminate Lake Winnipeg. A pipe began leaking on February 7th. In a written press release, Broken Head Ojibwe Nation Chief Gordon Blue Sky says poor infrastructure is to blame. It was identified by the city as problematic back in November. Blue Sky said the leak is hindering the ability to practice traditional livelihoods and stressed a proactive response is needed from the city. The City of Winnipeg has not responded to our request for comment before airtime. The Manitoba government announced earlier this week that it is moving forward with a controversial silica sand extraction project within Hollow Water First Nation. Sav Jonza has more.
Bad news came to a land offender camp in a Manitoba First Nation just a day before their 5th anniversary. The provincial government has given the green light to a silica sand extraction project they've been protesting against.
I just try and remember that this particular cause has only been for 5 years that we've been fighting it, but oppression and colonialism has gone on for over 400. This particular situation just goes to show how much work there is left to do.
MJ McCarran is a member of Camp Morningstar, a group set up in Hollow Water First Nation that's opposed to the silica mine planned to open there. Located about 2.5 hours north of Winnipeg on the eastern shore of Lake Winnipeg, she says the location is essential to Hollow Water First Nation and surrounding communities.
Well, the problem is that it's right in our community. It's like within meters of where people live. It is also on our community trap line. And it's kind of like, if you try and imagine it, it's like what Central Park is to New York.
She says the project brings up health concerns. Silica dust is a carcinogen. Camp Morningstar filed 2 appeals to stop the project last year, but they were dismissed. The proponent for the mine is Canadian Premium Sand. They plan to use the silica sand to make solar glass panels in Selkirk, Manitoba. But Provincial Environment and Climate Change Minister Tracy Schmidt says the government has listened to Camp Morningstar's concerns and says they've been addressed.
We understand that, any development like this one will have people that champion it and people that oppose it. We expect that, and we appreciate the concerns, but we're quite confident that the proposal put forward by the proponent and the conditions that have put into the license, we will be able to effectively manage, mitigate, and remediate any of those environmental risks and concerns.
Earlier today, Manitoba stopped another silica project east of Winnipeg because the extraction method would dig through aquifers and could contaminate water for 100,000 Manitobans. Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
On Friday, the government of Nunavut requested that the RCMP assist with an open investigation into the reported critical incidents at the Naja Isabel home in Chesterfield Inlet, Nunavut. Naja Isabel is a care home for people with disabilities. 3 patients from there were hospitalized, resulting in 2 subsequent deaths in hospital. RCMP are investigating the incidents that took place there. Nunavut's Department of Family Services is also investigating alongside Nunavut's representative for children and youth. The announcement did not specify when the incidents happened or the circumstances behind them, but stated the affected families have been notified. The Nunavut government declined to comment, saying the matter is under RCMP investigation. Nunavut RCMP stated further updates will be provided as the investigation progresses. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada has released its report on a 2021 helicopter crash in Nunavut that killed 3 people, issuing a number of recommendations. The helicopter crash took place on Griffith Island, about 10 kilometers north of Resolute Bay, due to a sudden loss of visual reference occurring during sudden whiteout conditions. The board's research determined loss of visual reference incidents are twice as likely to involve helicopters with less stringent requirements for low visibility conditions. They called on Transport Canada to require commercial helicopter operators to improve standard procedures, technology, and enhance requirements in low visibility conditions.
We see that helicopters are twice as likely to be involved in one of those accidents than an airplane. So we need to look at the differences. Why is that so? Well, the difference is the issue of training for pilots, for helicopter pilots operating in these conditions, equipage on the helicopter itself, as well as the procedures and the requirements that are imposed on the operators if they're going to operate in reduced visibility conditions.
We need to step aside for a short break. Still to come, an Alaskan tribal organization says their waterways are under threat thanks to their next-door neighbors, the province of British Columbia. Plus, a Reconciliation Through Justice event in Treaty 6 territory.
Everybody wants to get to reconciliation, but we're not yet finished with the truth. And we have to be brave enough.
Welcome back to APTN National News. Dozens of people attended a session last night near Edmonton called Reconciliation Through Justice. It featured respected Cree elders Jerry and Joanne Saddleback, who discussed Treaty 6 and what needs to be done to bring about true reconciliation and healing. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
The Star of the North Retreat Center in St. Albert hosted a discussion featuring husband and wife Jerry and Joanne Saddleback. Jerry was a spiritual advisor to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Joanne is now elder in residence at the Edmonton Public Library and serves on many boards for Indigenous peoples. Dozens of people in person and online heard their teaching on how Treaty 6 relates to reconciliation.
Everybody wants to get to reconciliation, but we're not yet finished with the truth. And we have to be brave enough, we have to be strong enough to be able to continue to talk about the truth. We've only just touched the surface of it when we went through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
How do people reconcile when they've totally destroyed a nation of people in all respects? How do they come to grips with that and to, be able to deal with these people in the proper manner?
Joanne spoke about the signing of Treaty 6 and the bridge that still needs to be crossed to begin to heal the damages caused by hundreds of years of colonialism.
I know a lot of people, they think reconciliation is this. That's not reconciliation. As I was telling the good fellow Chris there, that reconciliation is we're here, you're a million miles over there. You must make that 1,000,000-mile journey all by yourselves to us. That's reconciliation. We have nothing to reconcile.
APTN asked some of the attendees what they thought about the evening's discussion.
I was really grateful for the discussion and for the pieces that were shared about that reconciliation and justice specifically requires healing, and that it is healing. It's a process that facilitates healing, and that's not a perspective we hear very often.
It was just a real blessing. Anytime that I can come and sit with these elders is a treat. And so I was really happy to be able to come and sit in person this evening.
The next seminar in this series will be held on May 23rd at the Star of the North in St. Albert. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, St. Albert.
There are a number of rivers that run between Alaska and Canada, many of which have sustained Indigenous people on both sides of the border for thousands of years. But an Alaskan tribal organization says rivers in the southeastern part of the state are under threat thanks to their next-door neighbors, the province of BC. As Sarah Connors tells us, the organization is taking an interesting approach to protecting their beloved waterways.
This petroglyph of a sun along the Unic River is Louis Wagner Jr.'s family crest. The image dates back more than 10,000 years and is a testament to his family's connection to the river.
Under Tlingit law, it's a deed to the river, and showing the ownership of belonging to our family.
The Unic River flows from its source in the interior of British Columbia about 130 kilometers to the Pacific Ocean. Around 40 kilometers of the lower river cuts into southeast Alaska. Wagner, who is Tlingit and Tsimshian from Metlakatla, Alaska, has spent more than 60 years fishing ooligan on the river. The small, oily fish is prized among southeast Alaskan natives.
We'd get usually around 30,000 pounds. Back in the day, it would take care of the people in Ketchikan, Saxman.
But Wagner says ooligan stocks aren't what they used to be.
I've spent my life up there. I know what it was like before the mining, or there's two mines going now. And it'd be so neat, you know, that the fish would come in, they come in so strong.
Nearly 90% of the BC side of the Unic watershed is now staked with Canadian mineral claims. That includes Skeena Resources' proposed Eskay Creek project near the BC community of Stewart. Eskay Creek is one of several proposed or operating mines located on or near major rivers that cross the Canadian-U.S. border in southeast Alaska.
We're running out of clean water around the world. This mining is destroying us. They want to go green on everything, and electric cars that burn up. They forget about keeping our water clean.
Wagner is a delegate for the Southeast Alaska Indigenous Transboundary Commission. The organization is made up of Tlingit, Tsimshian, and Haida tribal nations whose mission is to defend transboundary rivers. In January, it sent a petition to the BC government seeking participating Indigenous status in Canada. That status would mean the province of BC and Canada would be required to consult with Alaskan tribes on mining projects impacting transboundary rivers.
And that's why it's so important for SCATC's voice and the tribes it represents to be properly heard in the process and for them to be properly consulted.
The Commission's lawyer says southeastern tribes are entitled to have a say when it comes to mining. He points to a 2021 Supreme Court of Canada ruling,
which recognized the possibility for tribes and tribal members who have ancestral connections to lands within Canada, but who are now based outside of Canada, that they could still possess Aboriginal rights.
The Commission is now waiting to hear back from BC's Environmental Assessment Office. Wagner says he and his family will do whatever it takes to protect the Unic River.
It's so important to keep that water clean.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News.
Earlier this week, federal housing advocate Marie-Josée Houle released a report on tent encampments across Canada. She described the housing and homeless system in the country as being broken. Houle pointed out on APTN's Nation to Nation that a staggering number of Indigenous peoples are living in the encampments. They make up a majority of those living on the streets in some cities in Western Canada. The NDP's Indigenous Affairs critic Laurie Idlout brought the issue to the House of Commons on Friday during question period.
Canada's federal housing advocate confirmed this week that Indigenous peoples are more likely to be forced to live on the streets. This government's lack of action means Indigenous peoples are being intentionally forgotten. In Edmonton, 60% of those living on the streets are Indigenous. In Winnipeg, it's 2/3, and in Saskatoon, it's over 90%. In Nunavut, many tell me about overcrowding because of the lack of housing. Will the minister listen to the federal housing advocate and stop underfunding Indigenous housing?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are taking action to address the tremendous lack of safe, affordable housing and housing supports for Indigenous peoples in urban, rural, and northern communities. The For Indigenous, by Indigenous approach that guides our housing strategy will ensure successful approaches for communities in need. Since 2016, we've supported the construction, renovation, and retrofit of over 30,000 homes in First Nation communities and continue to work with partners to co-develop a 10-year housing and infrastructure strategy. All levels of government must work together to solve this crisis and continue to push for Indigenous-led solutions to address these gaps.
We need to take one more quick break. Still to come, our photo of the day and tomorrow's weather forecast. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Lee Wilson, traveling through Gitwanga in northern British Columbia, snapped this amazing shot of totems in the community under this evening sky. Thanks for that photo, Lee. For your chance to be our next photo of the day, send your pictures to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the East Coast, -2 and snow in Halifax, -5 in Charlottetown. Nain, snowy and -13, Kuujjuaq, -23. Saguenay, snowy, -13 there, Quebec City, -6. Ottawa, snow and -7, North Bay, sunshine, -12. Kapuskasing, sunshine and -11, Sioux Lookout, flurries, -7. Churchill, sunshine and -14, Puckatawagan, -10. Gimli, sunny and -3, Dauphin, -2. Saskatoon, sunshine there and -2, Yorkton, -3. Stony Rapids, snowy and -10, La Ronge, sunshine, -3. 0 degrees and sunshine in Peace River, -7 in High Level. Calgary, +3 and sunshine there, Red Deer, -2. Kamloops, 1 degree there and sunny, Campbell River, +6. Prince Rupert, +7, Smithers, -3 and sunny. Dawson, -17 there, Watson Lake, -12. Watee, sunshine and -13, Fort Simpson, -10. Paulatuck, mix of sun and cloud, -17 there, Sax Harbor, -28. Baker Lake, snowy and -31, Nauyet, -32. Arctic Bay, -29 there, and Resolute, sunshine and -33. And that's all the time we have for you tonight here on APTN National News. For news anytime, head over to our website at aptnnews.ca. You can also catch up on any stories you may have missed. I'm Savannah Kelly, and from behalf of all of us here at APTN News, Marcy Miigwech, thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend, stay warm, and stay safe out there.